In the valley where the Drina River curls like a silver ribbon, life was measured in small, sweet things. Elmir and his younger sister, Amira, sat on their wooden porch, the scent of strong coffee and roasting peppers thick in the air. They watched the sun dip behind the Emerald Mountains, believing the world would always be this quiet, this golden, and this kind. But the shadows grew longer than the trees. Dark rumors drifted into the valley like wood smoke, and Elmir began to watch the road with eyes that had forgotten how to laugh. He packed a small bag, his hands shaking as he folded a single spare shirt, listening to the heavy rumble of trucks echoing through the hills. The day of the great parting came with the sound of shouting and the smell of exhaust. Soldiers with cold eyes stood between the families, drawing a line in the dust that could never be uncrossed. Elmir reached out, his fingertips brushing Amira's for one final, frantic second before the tide of men was pushed toward the forest and the women toward the buses. Amira watched the forest swallow her brother. She sat on the floor of a crowded warehouse, the air thin and tasting of salt. She whispered Elmir's name into the dark, hoping the wind would carry it through the trees to where he walked, hidden by the ferns and the mist of the Bosnian night. In the quiet fields of Srebrenica, the world went silent. Elmir stood among the tall grass, the forest at his back, and the sky wide and indifferent above him. He thought of the porch, the coffee, and the sister who was his whole world, as the shadows finally caught up to the sun. Years passed, and the valley attempted to heal its scars with wildflowers. Amira returned to the hills, no longer a girl but a woman who carried the weight of the missing. She noticed something strange. Clusters of brilliant blue butterflies hovering over specific patches of earth, drawn to the flowers that grew only where the soil had been disturbed long ago. The butterflies were the messengers of the earth, leading the way to the truth that had been buried in the dark. Amira knelt in the dirt, her fingers brushing against a rusted key she recognized. It was the key to their front door, the one Elmir had kept in his pocket for a home he never saw again. They took the fragments of the valley and placed them in a field of white stone. Amira stood in the center of Potokari, surrounded by a forest of narrow white pillars that stretched as far as the eye could see. Each stone was a name, and each name was a story that the world had tried to erase. She found the stone that bore Elmir's name and the date his watch had stopped. She traced the letters with her thumb, speaking to him as if he were still sitting on the porch. She told him that he was not forgotten, and that the blue butterflies had brought him back to her at last. Now Amira sits on a new porch with a boy named Tarek, who has Elmir's bright eyes. Together they plant white lilies in the garden, a symbol of a heart that refuses to break. They remember the valley, the river, and the butterflies, teaching the next generation that even in the deepest silence, love finds a way to speak.